Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey, welcome back. It is Transformation Tuesday over here at Loving Me Before I Love You. And this episode, like any other episode, is always about transforming our lives through the power of self-love. This month, we are still doing our lovely Freedom Month. And I have a special guest with me. Her name is technically she's Dr. Corrin Elmore, but I call her Coco. So we have Coco/Corrin with us today, and we are really going to keep talking about freedom and living our authentic selves and lives. And so our episode today is Authentically Unleashed, Embracing My True Self Without Limits. And we have Corrin to talk about it, and I'm so excited that she's here. Welcome to the show, Coco.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Life is good. God is good. I'm good.
I know that's real. So tell the people a little bit about yourself so they'll know who's on the mic. And then we're going to dive deep into our authentic selves.
Okay. Corrin Elmore. I'm a pediatric psychologist, which just means I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, working with kids, always loved kids. And I spent most of my career working in hospital settings, and I recently, last year, transitioned out of that to work with nonprofit as an urban missionary. So I'm really excited to talk about being your authentic self because I just had a whole self change.
Man, when we are changing careers, sometimes and it's not even that you change careers; it's just changing the directory of where you were headed in the same field, but in a different position. That's always life-changing as a whole. So I'm going to dive in, right?
Okay.
And I want you to tell me, what does authenticity mean to you personally? And how has your journey been with embracing your true self?
I love that. So authenticity to me means keeping it real. And, for me, I've always been told I was a person that kept it real, sometimes too real. But I've also had to learn that authenticity doesn't mean keeping it real to the point that you're damaging others or saying everything that you see, being authentic with love. So if I see something negative on somebody, I can tell them in love to do better, but I don't have to call out everything I see.
That is true. I think a lot of times we see being authentic or true in reference to, I'm not lying to you and I'm keeping it, as you say, keeping it real. And I'm like giving you my true self in reference to how I'm viewing what's happening. Right.
Yeah.
But what do you do for your internals, right? Like for yourself and being a real person, embracing you. How has that journey been? Like your discovery of who is Coco and her evolution.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. So I'm going to try to be all the way authentic with you.
Be real with the people.
You knew me way back at when, Tammy knew me as a kid. So, again, I've always been told that I kept it real and was authentic, but what people saw was me talking trash, doing what I wanted to do, being a typical preacher's kid. But what they didn't see is that I'm a really big softie at heart, and I really love people, and I really love kids. And so what looked like keeping it real was really just hiding that vulnerable part of myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've had to learn in my 30s going into my 40s, that the real me is, just a sweet kind of teddy bear loving girl. And so I've been on a journey to bring her out and learn more about her and not be afraid of her getting hurt.
Mm. So you basically what I just heard. See, yeah, I did that. Don't talk about it. That therapy side just kicked in real quick, but
Hey, we do
it
what we do.
happens. But basically, what I heard from you is that you're keeping it real or being, I would say, blunt, direct with people was more of a mask of keeping your most gentle, sincere self hidden from others.
Yeah,
It kept them
yeah,
at bay. It kept them at arm's length.
yeah, definitely. You summarized that perfectly. Yeah, and the point was I wanted connection with others, so I think it was less to like keep them at bay, but keep them from hurting me or not damaging me in some way. So really like a self protection. So we can
Hmm.
be friends and we can kiki, but you can't get too close because I don't want you to hurt me.
Yeah.
And so I thought of it as a way to get respect, and it worked. When you're direct and blunt, and so I don't want to take that away. That's a real part of me too. Directness and bluntness can get clear answers. It can get people to treat you the way you want to be treated,
Hmm.
but it can also make people feel like they don't need to comfort you at times because they think you're so strong. Um,
Mm.
it can leave you unprotected when there's conflict 'cause they think you got it all together.
Hmm.
So I want to have both parts respect me while also comfort me.
Yeah. And I guess you don't get to receive both parts if you don't be both parts.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's on me.
Yeah.
People can only respond to what I give them. And
Yeah.
so I think transitioning from being a psychologist as my full-time job, which I love, that also is the realest part of me, being with kids who are
Hmm.
vulnerable and need protection and are fun and happy and very direct too,
Hmm.
because a kid will tell you about yourself quick.
Yeah.
That's a part of me. But the part of kind of chasing ambition, so 12 years of college, two masters, a doctorate, all of that.
Hmm.
That's a part of me. But once I kind of got to like as high as I could go career wise, I'm like, what am I doing? What's the purpose? And am I bringing my full self? And I knew that a big part of me wanted to just really be in the community,
Hmm.
telling people about God and serving them on a more on their level, not kind of just sitting in an office.
Mm. So were you discovering that you had like not necessarily reached your plateau, but your full purpose in life had not been expounded upon and it was like, wait a minute. I know I'm supposed to be doing more. Like I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but it's just like in the wrong setting, in the wrong atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I did what I was supposed to do to that point, and that I got as far as I could go, um, doing that as far as I'd like to go. I had a great career, great pay, a house, getting awards all the time, which is great, and I loved it. But there was also a part of me that really wanted to, be with the people. Like, I wanted to be able to hug the kids I worked with and tell them about God and see people suffering and, walk with them while they're living in their cars. And I'd done some missionary work before, and I felt like that side wasn't getting much attention.
Yeah. So when you embrace your authentic self, how much did you lose during that process?
That is a great question. And nobody wants to talk about that. There is loss with gain. Nobody wants
All
to
the
talk
time.
about that. Yes, nobody wants to talk about that. So, well, first of all, I feel like I lost a bit of my sanity because
Mm,
I had to unlearn a lot of things before I was ready to receive and learn some new things to even know I wanted to do something different.
mhm,
So, when I loved my job, I loved my career, and then I just started to feel unsettled and I
mhm,
didn't know why. So I had to look around and just do a lot of stuff, really get depressed. Um, that's just part of my story. I'm not saying it has to be everyone's.
right.
And then I realized something had to be different, but for things to be different, I had to let go of the familiar.
Mhm.
So I'm a person who likes to work hard and then party hard.
Yeah.
You see my Instagram stories.
Yeah. Exactly.
And yes, all the time. And so
Exactly.
I'm not saying I'm letting go of partying because I do love to have fun, but just kind of seeking things that are with a purpose and mean more.
To
So,
have
going to
value.
the club every weekend, yeah, add value. Like going to the club every weekend, meeting guys, talking trash to them. That was like a every day for 20 years, every weekend thing for 20 years. So I had to let go of that. I knew that wasn't serving me anymore, but I didn't know what was.
Hmm.
So it took a while, and I'm still in that process of feeling like I knew everything I wanted, and now I don't.
Hmm.
And then practically, when I decided to become an urban missionary, that does not come with a lot of pay. So
Hmm.
practically, I lost over $100,000. My salary went down by over $100,000. I had a home which I still have, but I don't live in it. I live with my grandparents, which I love. But it's just a different, slower, simpler lifestyle. And a lot of the things I thought were important, I've had to let go of to make room for new things.
Hmm. I think a lot of times, and you mentioned getting in a depressed state. I think a lot of times it's isolation. When you start to feel isolated from the things that you loved and enjoy, a lot of times it's God's, knock, knock on the door that says,
Hmm.
hey, I got something more. And what you're doing is not leading you to the more for me. So I need you to come
Mm,
away. And sometimes because we don't really know what that is and what it looks like and what it feels like, it appears to be depression because it's like, yo, I'm stuck. I'm like,
yes.
what next? And once you actually, I won't say lean into the depression, but more so leaning into God, like leaning into that isolation and kind of like figuring out, okay, somebody trying to talk to me and tell me something to
Mhm.
do. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's make a move. And that
Yeah.
it's a lot of loss because you're losing the old version that you knew of yourself. And sometimes that leads to losing the people that was connected to that old version too. So it's like,
Amen.
it's not just, a one type of loss. It's like a loss all the way around. I look
Yeah.
at it as like a butterfly, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly when you are shedding that old
Yes.
skin to be able to emerge and become a new you. It's like the process, right? That depression, like a caterpillar is ugly. You, I mean,
Yeah. I
it
mean, they stink.
is. It is ugly. I'm just gonna call it what it is. That's why everybody is so in awe of the butterfly because of its beauty and its different, its
Mm,
uniqueness and how it can, all the butterflies can have so many different marks and colors and, the wing size and,
yeah.
the curvage of the wing. Like everything is different about it, but it's like so immaculate. It's so like amazing.
Yes.
But
You
that
preaching right
caterpillar
now.
stage,
Mm-hmm.
that caterpillar stage, it's a stage we don't really care to go through, but it's a necessary process in order for that butterfly to be as beautiful as it is.
Yeah. I could totally relate to that. Yeah, I felt like I've been a caterpillar for a while and like the depression and really, like you said, I think it was a helpful depression. I
Hmm.
I also did some research and found this concept, the dark night of the soul. And it's
Mm,
something that Moses went through. It's something that a lot of people in the Bible went through where you feel an absence of God. He's still there, but you
hmm.
don't feel him as closely and you're kind of like in darkness. And that's when you can let go of a lot of things and you're just sat still to be uncomfortable enough to get to the next place. And they say, after the dark night of the soul, you get the light. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's what I was going through. And I didn't know it was happening. I'm on the other side of it, but I didn't know it was happening. I just knew I was unsettled. I didn't know why. I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I didn't want this. And I had to kind of get in that cocoon for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this opportunity came out to move to Sacramento. I'd already started doing some work getting closer to God and being more unashamed and loud about my relationship with God. And something new is developing, but it's still very, very new.
Yeah. And it's more intentional. It's
Mm-hmm.
less vicarious. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when you grow up in church, a lot of times things is just automatic, right?
Yeah.
It's just a thing. Like, we go to church because we go to church. Like, everybody's here, and your mama said go, your daddy said go. Like, this is just what we doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when I really think about that as a whole, like, we grew up in the same church
Yeah.
all those years, and everything was just like routine,
Our
even
whole
to the
life.
point, like, when I was finding my authentic self, I had to find a church where I didn't know nobody
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want the routine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And then
Like,
to
I
find
feel
it for
like,
yourself.
and you have to be authentic. But like, when you are in a church when everybody knows everything about you, at least from the surface, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't just be free and be me,
Yep.
because it's always that, what do you know? What are you thinking? What are you like? It's just like, oh man, you gonna run and tell my mama and them. Like,
Yep. Yep. And you gotta put your little mask on because you don't want it to look bad for the family either.
that part,
Everything you do.
that part. And
Yeah.
so growing up and trying to become an adult and be your own, your own person. I think still to this day, you still are, you're PK. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows your mama and everybody knows your daddy. And it doesn't matter where you go, which I will say this, the one thing that I have always admired about you is that didn't matter to you. I always saw you be, you know what I mean? Like, even hear you now saying being real was your thing. It was, but that's also an admirable trait to have, to be able to say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter who you know that's connected to me. I'm me. And they know I'm
Thank
me.
you.
So the stuff you gonna run back and say, they already gonna know,
I
yep, she
already know.
did that. you ain't
Yep.
telling you ain't going to tell them nothing new that they don't already know. And even if it was something new, they know I'm gonna tell the truth when they come ask me. You know what I mean? So
That's true. Thank you. That is me. I'm like, yep, I did it.
yeah, I did that. I probably shouldn't have, but it's okay. We gonna get over it and move on, which makes that part even more beautiful, right? So it's like when you're rediscovering, like, so I think that self-discovery is a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's never just done.
Yeah. And that's why I was kind of saying it doesn't matter when this airs, what happens, like I'm still gonna be on this journey.
The same
I'm
journey.
I'm gonna find out more stuff. I'm turning 40 this year. I'm gonna find out more stuff when I'm turning 50.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, but it's scary when you realize it's happening because it's been happening my whole life. Of course, we're discovering and learning about ourselves, but to know it's happening and not really know what's next when you're kind of used to knowing what's next, like you said, just kind of routine. Um, it's beautiful and scary at the same time
Yeah.
for me.
Because when you knew what was happening next, it was because you were in control.
Yeah,
And see, when you give the control over to God, you never know. You just listen and obey, and keep it
yeah,
moving. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
that can definitely be scary, because you have to simply trust that whichever direction He's taking you, it's for your good and His glory. That's it.
Amen. Yeah, I know it's good. I do know that. And
Yeah.
I know it's going to bring me closer to him and help me to help more people. But I don't know what it's going to look like. And I remember having a conversation with God when I started to get a little more serious about him. I was like, God, I don't want to be one of those weird Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not trying to over spiritualize everything, be so spiritually high, I can't be any earthly good.
Yeah.
I still like to wear my little outfits. And,
Mm-hmm.
I do listen to Sexy Red and I listen to Fred Hammond. And God
Yeah.
was like, I created you. I know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And like you said, he really reminded me that he's not creating a new person. He's taking off the stuff that wasn't the person he made and making me into
Mm-hmm.
the person he made. And so I feel like I'm becoming more of myself, not losing my old self, but becoming the real self.
Right. Right. And you have to be able to be okay with that. Right. Like
Hmm.
that space, you have to be okay with it.
Hmm.
So I think when you are being okay in that space, it allows you to like embrace the uncomfortableness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like, I wasn't willing at first. This kind of feeling started in 2019. And I was like, why do I feel uncomfortable? Everything's great. I'm just gonna ignore this. And then, 6 months later, we had a pandemic. So now I
Mm-hmm.
had to sit there and I had to look at myself. And it was a blessing for me, the pandemic. It was hard, but it was a blessing. Like I had to sit and I had nothing else to distract me but me.
Yeah.
And I really had to say, Corinne, what are you doing? And why are
Yeah.
you doing it? And then also as an extrovert, I like to be around people. That's how I get my energy. And so being alone, I had to learn how to be alone and enjoy my company. And I've
Yeah.
always told my friends, like, I love that you guys love me, but I'm not the kind of person I would hang out with. Like, most of my friends are opposite of me. And so I had to get to enjoy Corinne, get uncomfortable. That took a couple years. And now that I've kind of embraced it, now be okay with growth. Because when you're growing, you're tender. And
Yeah.
so now, I get emotional all the time. And I'm one of those people who never like to cry. So
Right.
it's just all very new. Good.
Right.
But it's new at heart.
I can attest that to be true.
Yeah.
I really can. But you just said something that was very interesting and said you wouldn't want to be friends with yourself.
Mm-mm. No.
Why would you not?
Let me soften that a bit. Okay. I think I'm a great person and a great friend. So I would want to be friends with someone who treated people the way I do. But personality wise, I'm loud, I'm an extrovert, I talk fast. My preference for people is people who are a little more quiet and reserved and introverted, and those tend to be my friends. Not that it's bad, like I think I'm not a worthy friend to hang out with. It's just not my type of personality. I maybe have one other friend
Hilarious.
like me. Yeah.
But I think that sometimes it has to be a balance,
Hmm.
right? Like you can't just, if you got everybody that was similar or like you in the same space, that would be a lot.
Yeah. Complimentary. I like a
Yeah.
complimentary friend, not an
Yeah.
identical.
That, yeah. Because that would be a whole lot.
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Hmm.
Did you have the fear of judgment when you were making this change? Like, what were the people in your closest circle, somewhat close? Because we have our limits of types of friends. So some people are super
Mhm.
close and some people are like at arm's length and, sitting
Mhm.
in the balcony of our lives. Did you have that fear of judgment of what people would say for your change?
I think I did at first. But what I quickly realized is that most of the judgment was from myself. I choose good people to be around me. And like I said, I'm pretty known for keeping it real. So a lot of these people already could see this was happening. They knew I loved God. They knew that I loved helping people. They knew probably before I did. But I was worried that if I'm posting a story of me smoking hookah and twerking, and then I post a story the next day of me in my discipleship class, that people are going to call me a hypocrite.
Mhm,
And no one actually did.
mhm,
Even some people were like, I love that you have two sides to you. I love that we can hang out with you here and there, and that you're not judgmental. But I think a lot of the judgment was coming from myself.
mhm. We can do that. We definitely
Hmm.
can. I think that sometimes people take Christianity to be, as you were mentioning before, holier than thou, untouchable, dehumanized, like doesn't have
Hmm.
any kind of, you know, tangibles to the world at all. Right? Like that
Yeah,
you don't know what secular music is, or, like you say, smoking hookah or doing twerking or whatever, like that should just be something that's not allowed, not a part
right.
of someone's story. But the reality is we were all sinners first, right? So at some point we was doing something we had no business to do anyway, right? But it
Right,
doesn't mean that all things are wrong.
exactly. And like you said, it's about what purpose is it serving. So, I didn't say I'm gonna stop listening to Megan Thee Stallion and City Girls and Sexy Red. I never said that about me being a Christian, but I had to do that. But as I got more into my word and I spent more time around other believers, I started listening to it less. And so I just didn't have the appetite for it. My appetite changed as I
Mhm.
changed. But also, I don't think that the music you listen to means you're a Christian or not. I really think it's about holiness and striving for the best. So this is good, but could this be better?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because we've got some people that quote unquote only listen to gospel music and sermons, but are the devil themselves and heathens
Come
because
on,
of how they act and how they treat people and what's coveted in their hearts about and towards people. So 100% agree.
come on. So I'm like, I I'm worried about y'all gossiping and not letting people sit in this row and all kind of stuff like that. And you worried about the song I'm listening to.
Right. That part.
Mhm.
That part.
Right.
So when you're becoming your new authentic self, right? When you are embracing it and just enjoying the ride, right? Like in the
Yeah.
beginning of the ride was probably like a roller coaster getting started. You'd be like up the hill, and then
Yes,
and then you get to
absolutely.
the top, right? And you
Right.
like, God, what you bring?
Like,
What
what
you
is happening?
doing? Why are you bringing me this
Yes.
high up? And then He allows you to go down and then come back up through the ride, through the circles and the twists and the turns. And you think about being on that roller coaster, like you don't have fun until you come down. You don't, you don't,
Mm.
you don't have fun
Mm.
until that ride is moving, right? Like
Yes.
that anticipation up that little. You're nervous, you're scared, you're
Hmm.
fearful. Even when you get to the very top, you still scared. But once you go down, and you feel that breeze and you realize this track got me, that's God, right? Like He got you and He
Yes.
just takes you along even through the ups and the downs, the circles and all of those things. And it's like, you know what? I feel the most free on a roller coaster. right? Like you think about like the wind is hitting you every
Yeah.
which way, and you enjoy that wind hit. Like you be like, oh, this feels so good. Oh, and
Yes.
even when you hit the unexpected dip that you didn't know was coming, it was like,
Like,
oh,
ooh.
but you keep going. Like you
Mm-hmm.
keep going, and because you know whose hands you in, right? Like you
Mm.
just enjoy the ride. And that's the way I look at the self-discovery journey. That's the way I look at being authentic. It's like, just be you. It don't
Mm-hmm.
matter when that ride stop and your hair's all over your head. You don't care. You just went on the ride of your life. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it never matters in that moment. And so that to me is what represents living an authentic life, because I don't really care. Like I'm enjoying the ride. It has its bumps, it has its ups, downs, twists, turns, dips that I don't expect to come,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you take the ride.
Tammy, I gotta stop for a second and say your metaphor game is on point. Okay? The butterflies and the roller coaster. Like, I gotta steal that because I feel like you captured it so perfectly. Like I can literally name the months I was on each part of the
Of the
ride.
road, right? Like you just,
Yes.
I'm just saying.
So I really feel like yeah, the depression part was kind of me standing in line, like I know something's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen, but I'm stuck. I have nowhere to move, but I just gotta stay here to get to the ride. And then I'm like, I'm here. And well, first of all, I'm actually scared of heights. So this is very
Mm-hmm.
real for me. And I still get on roller coasters. So I always feel that terror as it's going up.
Yes.
And I really
Mm-hmm.
feel like that happened when I committed. I actually quit my job last February, out of nowhere. Like I just woke up one day and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I
Mm.
quit, but the way I quit, since I have patience and everything, is I quit, but for a 3-month later date to quit. So I put in my notice 3 months before I
Mm-hmm.
was leaving. And so then it got real. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going. I have no backup plan. I didn't know I was moving to California. I didn't know anything. Um, and then when the job ended and the check stopped coming in, I already had another job lined up by that point. Um, so it was getting real. I was almost to the top. And then when I actually sold all my stuff, flew to California with my cat and only the stuff I could fit in my trunk of my car, I was like, oh, this is real. I'm here. And I don't really have an answer all the way of why, except for I know God wants me to do it. And so, those first, I moved to California from DC last September. And those first few months were pretty scary, but also like exciting because it was new again. I have been doing the same job for so long. I was in college for 12 years, so I hadn't had something new in a while. And so I didn't even really know what my job was going to be. So I actually, one of my friends bought a farm randomly. And she said, you should come visit my farm, just for a weekend getaway, my farm in Northern California. And I said, okay, cool. And then when I got there, we just did a lot of prayer and worship. And I was like, man, I wish I worked somewhere like this, where I could just be on a farm and play with kids. And she was like, well, actually, you can. I have a budget. And I was like, okay. So I just said, yeah. And so there was really no thought into it. But I got to learn more about what I'd actually be doing once I got here, which is working with women who are escaping sex trafficking and domestic violence, and running an after school program where I literally just play with kids all day, which I love. But it took, I would say, until about February of this year to actually get to the part of the ride where it's fun.
A
There
year
was
later.
fun moments. Yeah, actually. Yep. A year later since I quit. Look at you putting the math together. I didn't get that. Like, cause I've been here like 6 months, but a year since I quit. And it is fun. And we go on thrill rides because we like thrill. It's a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
fear with knowing you're safe. And I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. The fear's still there, but I have the safety and the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Learning our authentic selves all the time. Like I said, it's a whole journey. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a destination. You know what I mean? Like, we are to ride the journey, like,
Yeah.
all the time. Like, when I'm trying to help women who are in successful positions but feel like failures at home because they don't know how to manage their lives, right? It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can pay somebody to do this and I can pay somebody to do that. You can absolutely pay people to fill the voids that you have created.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you ever learn to put yourself first, you ever learn that you matter, if you ever
Mm-hmm.
did a value check and realize that the boundaries that you're supposed to set, the limits that you're supposed to set, understanding your own capacity, you don't technically need the other people
Mm-hmm.
because you'll do the things in the space that you have available. So you'll be able to tell people, hey, my cutting time is 2 o'clock because I need to be at my kids' X, Y, and Z by 3 or 4. And
Right.
you'll stick to it because this is my
Right.
boundaries and this is what I'm doing. This is how I live my life. And you won't be
Right.
afraid to say it. You know, we operate so much in fear of being who we are, who we want to be, that we allow other people to dictate our worth and our value. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what keeps us bottled up and needing release, like what we do when we find our authentic self, because we've been living somebody
Yeah.
else's life this entire time. Like,
Yes.
we live the societal norms. We live
Mm-hmm.
like, this is what society say we're supposed to be doing right now. This, if I'm in this capacity of work, I'm supposed to be at these board meetings and at this
Right.
event, at this gala, at this. And if you don't want to go, don't.
Don't go. Yes. Say
Like,
no.
be you. No is a sentence. It's a statement. It's all that. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to use it. And we don't know when to use it. And sometimes we use it at the wrong times, and sometimes we don't use it at all.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary statement.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it was kind of a little different than what I've found some of my other women friends have been going through. One of my strengths is setting boundaries. I say no all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I love to say no and cut off things. And I think for me, giving myself permission to say yes or to kind of let people in who I don't know all the way, or
Mm-hmm.
permission to cry in front of people,
Mm-hmm.
um, to know that other people care about you too.
Yeah.
And so I guess, yeah, saying no to the BS, but saying yes to like
Your
some real
freedom.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that if we ever learn that being authentically you is the most freeing level of life that you could ever experience. And it doesn't mean that I simply don't care about people or what they think, but it's more so I care more about what I think first, right? Like,
And
yeah,
you
what I
value
think,
people enough
right.
to say your actual opinion.
Yeah,
That's what I say matters. Because
yeah,
how do they know if you don't say anything?
that part, that part. And you can't just have the conversation in your head.
Mm,
Like, I think we run that risk of just wanting to be liked and accepted in in spaces that we may have a thought and an opinion, and it's like you're in that room and you're like, yeah, they don't want to hear that from me, or who am
mm-hmm,
I to say
mm-hmm.
this, or but that too is stunting your authenticity. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if the thought came and it was a thought that was of great need, or like how you're going to help something else become something better, and you sat on it, you ain't hurting just you hurting everybody else that needed to hear it.
Exactly. Because no one else can come up with your thoughts. You're
Right.
the only person who can say what's on your mind. You're the only one who can contribute what you can contribute.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that sometimes. We wait for other people to do it or we don't think we're worth it. And it's like nobody else can Corinne. Nobody else can Tabby.
Nope. You can't. I'm me and you're
Mm-hmm.
you. So it's like you want to empower others to be them too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just be you. Like, you is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncle Ken said that's bad grammar, but good theology.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
But
Plain.
you are enough. Like it really it's a true statement that people need to embrace and run with as a whole. And I say thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your authentic self. But I do have a question. What advice, jewel, takeaway would you want the listeners to have as we end this segment?
I would say I think it's important to do regular room checks of yourself and think about all the things you're doing and think about why you're doing it. Is this something I really want to do? Does this matter to me or not? And if it doesn't, just let it go.
Amen. Amen. Because over here we say, love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus. Thanks for joining me, Coco. And we're going to try to
You're
get you
welcome,
back.
Tammy. I'd love to. I had a great time.
Awesome. See y'all next Transformation Tuesday.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.